Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Certainly have had yourselves a great weekend. I got you an update on a few things this evening. We're basically going to talk about what's coming up weather-wise. I can tell you there's not one specific big topic to really latch onto. There's nothing alarming out there. There's nothing concerning. I'm not going to try to hype up something that isn't really there. But what we're going to do is focus in on what potentially could happen over the next week or so. How warm can it be for certain areas? How cool? I'm going to give you an update on the tropics, talk about rain, and just the basic stuff out there. Things look like, I've said this before, and it turned around like the next day or two. Ends up being a totally different story, but things do look like it's entering a quieter period, which happens sometimes in the fall. So we'll figure that out. We'll see if that's actually the case over the next few days, and we'll break it all down for you folks. Just want to say thank you all for the prayers. I've definitely been under the weather this weekend. It hasn't been anything too crazy where I'm throwing up. I have a raging fever. It's just like it just seems like every time I lay down, like later at night, I start to feel bad. Then I feel bad when I'm waking up. And then I feel better throughout the day. And that's kind of what happened yesterday, and that's what happened today. Went to the game last night, South Carolina football game, and that really irritated whatever I had, and came home last night and definitely felt the worst that I felt all weekend. But I'm feeling pretty good this afternoon, so I just want to say thank y'all for the prayers and thank y'all for the support. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. You ever consider joining the channel? I have 43 incredible members that support me in that way, and during those slower times of the channel, those members are really just the foundation of the channel, just because they support me monthly. So if you ever consider doing that, it's a great way to support me and what I do monthly, and I just want to thank y'all for that. And I just want to thank y'all for the amazing support over the last, I would say, month and some change, and just over the summer, which is a really slower period, and it really wasn't. So with all that being said, if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. So let's get rolling. As you can tell, we got the Atlantic on your screen, the U.S., the lower 48. And guys, if you notice, just the flow of me speaking is a little bit off. The energy is low. Well, you probably can guess why. Just not 100%, but I'm definitely enough of a high percent to do this video. So I can tell you that. But let's break it down for you. Let's get this off your screen right here. So we got Philippe out here. It's a tropical storm. This is the same system that we were talking about earlier last week that wasn't necessarily a concern, but could have potentially became one in its future. And does not look like that's going to be the case. In fact, I don't think that Philippe is really going to strengthen a whole lot more compared to what it is right now. But as of now, it is definitely an eyesore on the screen that you see, and it is a tropical storm, not a hurricane, not expected to become a hurricane, but this is expected to go out to sea. And I'll actually show you the cone from the National Hurricane Center here in a second, and you can get it from the experts themselves showing it heading out to sea, which is good. And then you got an area of interest right here. Okay, this is not developed into a depression or a storm or anything like that, but it could. But model guidance really likes this going out to sea too, and we'll talk about the model guidance here in a second. And then we actually got an area of interest right into here. See kind of the explosion of showers and storms right in this region, but it has a very low shot, very, very low shot, as the upper winds will really break whatever this is apart, and most likely nothing will develop. Outside of that, you got a little upper low. It's a weaker upper low spinning up here, and this will kind of meander kind of southeastward, if you will, throughout the next few days. Might promote some strong to severe storms probably here in the next couple of days across the Midwest. We'll see what happens with that, but this is a full-fledged cutoff low, so it's going to move very slowly. And one thing we'll talk about in this video also is here in the next several days, once again, we need to watch right off the coast of the southeast. Now, we're not saying we're going to get another Ophelia or anything like that, but I'm already watching something in the models that keeps showing up, and I definitely at minimum think we're going to have an area of disturbed weather right off the coast of the southeast here in the next several days. So that's some key things we're going to talk about as far as the tropics, but we're not only going to discuss the tropics in this video, we're going to discuss other things too. Just going to talk about the tropics first. But there it is, Philippe on your screen. It's a tropical storm. Then you got the area of interest, which has a 60% chance. Is Invest 91L has a 60% chance to develop within the next 7 days. Could develop into a depression sometime midweek or so. And then we got this little area of interest right here. There's no area of interest off the coast of the southeast, but we got this area of interest right here in the southern Gulf of Mexico, right where the Gulf meets the Caribbean. But I mean, it says right there the conditions will not be favorable for any kind of development here in the future. But it was enough of a disturbance out there in the Gulf of Mexico to warrant an area of interest for sure. Latest cone for Philippe, expected to maintain tropical storm status. As you can tell, it just has the S on it, the whole entire length of the cone all the way through Friday afternoon. Right now it's a 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm and moving about west-northwest at 12 miles per hour, so not really bothering anybody. But I can tell you, any kind of fish out in this region right here in the Atlantic has definitely seen a lot of tropical systems move through this area. And yeah, they just all keep turning out to sea, not bothering a soul, which is good. I mean, we're even managing to miss Bermuda for the most part, which in an El Nino, a lot of times Bermuda is an area we really need to watch. But we're starting to get deeper into September, and really the tropical Atlantic, the what we call MDR, main development region, is beginning to slowly cut off, meaning that our focus for the rest of the hurricane season begins to slowly shift to the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, and off the coast of the southeast. But we will discuss mainly this area of interest. This is Philippe, where it will be sometime Tuesday evening. But really watch this blob of green right into here. This is the Euro, and we'll keep this rolling. We're getting into Friday morning, getting into Saturday morning, and we could have a tropical storm, Rena. That is our next name in the 2023 hurricane list of names, Rena. So we are rolling through names. Will we get all the way to the end of the alphabet? It's a possibility, but this isn't totally uncommon for El Nino. Yes, it's typically El Nino. You have a lot of out-to-sea systems, and that's typically because you have a lack of blocking in the North Atlantic. Subtropical ridge, Bermuda High, whatever you want to call it. So a lot of times, I mean, it can be quite active out here. And I think one of the reasons it's really active out here is because the extremely warm sea surface temperatures, not extremely, but it is above average. So things are really popping off out here in the tropical Atlantic, and they have been over the last few weeks and continue to, just due to that factor right there. But a lot of these systems are going out to sea. Almost all of them have been. Even our threat with Lee, which ended up hitting our folks up in Maine and areas in Canada. I mean, it never hit the eastern U.S. It was just a big hurricane way off the coast of the eastern U.S. And really the only lower 48 landfalling hurricane we got, remember, it came out the Gulf of Mexico, Idalia. So it didn't even really make the track across the tropical Atlantic and pose a threat. But we're getting into Sunday morning. We got a tropical storm at this point, Rena. And this is just model guidance. This isn't a grand conclusion, but it is getting pretty close to the Leeward Islands, Puerto Rico, but not close enough to bring any impacts. And we get about 10 days out, guys, and this is a hurricane at this point, but it's starting to make that turn slowly north and not affecting a soul. Could this change? It absolutely could. Do I think it's going to change? I really don't think it will. And I think one of the biggest reasons why is because you're going to have a wide open weakness now. Of course, like I've said many times, we don't know where ridging and troughing is going to be. On your screen here in the red and the orange, that is high pressure, and in the blue, that is low pressure. Both of these act to steer these tropical systems one way or the other. So this is what would be potentially Rena. Now, this ridging, very weak ridging on top of Rena right here, I'm calling it Rena, but it's not Rena. But you get what I'm saying. What could potentially be Rena? Just our Invest right now. This weak orange right here is very weak, but this system is still weak, which is right here. Okay. This is kind of following the path of this ridging. Remember, the path kind of goes like this with the ridge. All right. Then like that, and so forth. And same kind of deal with this ridge. If there was a tropical system right here, that would be the steering current. Now, I'm not saying if there was one right here, it would still steer directly into North Carolina. But, we kind of talked about that with Lee. If you got a stronger system, it's going to fight against that ridge. But that is why this thing is moving in the medium term, more so kind of east to west. Okay. Let's get this off your screen. We keep rolling, but what I want you to watch is look at that weakness. And if you've been tuning in for the last few weeks, maybe you've learned something, maybe not. If not, it's all good. No hard feelings. But we know that when this weakness opens up, you see in the white, that means that if you got a strengthening system for sure with Rena, this thing is going to begin to turn north, and that's exactly what it does. It begins to sniff out that weakness. Now, could you get ridging that builds and kind of closes this gap between this upper trough right here to prevent this from just kind of easy like Sunday morning scooting on out to sea? You could, but we don't know. I mean, that's 10 days out. But to me, this looks like this is going to continue to go and follow this weakness, and then it's gone after that. Could you get, this ridging to build over this region right here, and then you get the currents that kind of go like that, and this might kind of begin to feel that and begin to move a little bit more northwest? You could, but we're just speaking a lot of what ifs at this point, and there's no real point in doing all that this far out. So we keep rolling here, and next thing we will discuss is an area off the coast of the southeast. Now, this hasn't been talked on a whole lot, but it is an area that I'm watching, and we'll start this around Thursday evening, which is September the 28th. And I really think there's going to just be a lot of shower and storm activity right off the coast of the southeast about midweek through the rest of the weekend. And I think by the time we get into about midweek in Florida, it's going to be just a damper. You guys are going to get a lot of rain this week, and just got a lot of tropical energy. And there's a dry air right in this region, kind of preventing as much moisture from surging into the region. But if you continue to watch, it's getting to Friday evening, Saturday morning. We get into Saturday afternoon, you see that L popping up. It's like deja vu with Ophelia. Okay, and we continue to watch this. And let's see if the 18Z is actually running right now. And the 18Z, well, yeah, 18Z takes us about a week out. So we can actually look at the 18Z run. And I mean, it's the same thing. You see kind of an area of energy right down here in Florida, well off the coast of the southeast. It never really develops anything, but the latest GFS, if you look down here, this is about a week from today. See this region right here? That, to me, looks like some kind of tropical system trying to develop over the Bahamas. But, if we compare this to what the last GFS looks like, it doesn't really have the dominant energy over this region. It has a lot of energy right over here, and it continues to really kind of fire off a dominant piece of energy right into here, and then develops this into like a tropical system, and spins around right off the coast and just kind of dissipates. Now, the latest GFS looks like it's going to do something different. We just don't know what it is. I only have it 180 hours out, but to me, it looks like it's in the process of developing some kind of low pressure. But there's no point in speaking on this a whole lot. But in general, guys, I just want us to watch off the coast of the southeast, especially when we get closer to the weekend. You look at the Canadian model. I mean, you look at all this area of disturbed weather, the Gulf of Mexico over South Georgia, Florida, even the low country of South Carolina off the coast of the southeast. And remember what we talked about. When you get a lot of showers and storms out in the open water, especially over the Gulf Stream off the coast of the southeast, what happens? You get something like Ophelia, where you almost get a borderline hurricane making landfall in North Carolina. Even though Ophelia didn't pack too terribly of a punch from all the comments I read and just from knowing a couple people who chased the storm, we still got to always watch. I mean, it's hurricane season still, so we certainly need to pay attention. But the Canadian model, just kind of spins around, and we get into about a week from today. Does develop a low pressure, but look how far out we are, October the 4th. And develops an all-out tropical storm, and looks like it's heading right towards the Delmarva region. But guys, that's 10 days out, pretty far out, really unreliable time frame, but it does support the idea of a lot of energy off the coast of the southeast, right? So same kind of deal, you keep this rolling. We're getting all the way into, well, let's back it up a little bit. This is this weekend, Saturday morning. A lot of green, little splotches of yellow and orange on your screen off the coast of the southeast. And eventually, can you get some kind of dominant piece of energy that gets going? You could. The Euro never really does, but it's really close to at this point. Once you get about 10 days out, it looks like it's got something trying to get going, but it's hard to know. I mean, that's 10 days out, so we're just not quite sure. So moving past the tropics, and we'll continue to watch this. We'll continue to get you updates on that. What's going to be the pattern coming up? Well, we're going to watch this upper low, which is right here where you see the circle, little upper low that's going to promote some weather across areas of the upper Midwest and Midwest. And then we got this big trough beginning to move into the western U.S. At the same time, this trough will move in, and then the ridge will build right over the middle of the country. This is getting into Friday. We got ridging up in Canada, ridging over the middle of the country. And then you see the blue popping up on your screen. You got a lot of blue right here. This is a massive trough setting up over the west. It's going to bring well below average temperatures for our folks in the west. Really, I think we could get some snow for sure in these higher elevations. Definitely kickstart the fall foliage in a lot of areas and some of these mountainous regions out here. Well, pretty much not everybody, but there's a lot of mountainous regions obviously out west. But so we got to watch this. This is a big upper trough. This is a deep digging trough too. So sometimes, you certainly got to watch anything that kind of gets going at the bottom of this trough, any kind of energy. But to me, this screams below average temperatures in the blue. And then in the orange, that's a ridge of high pressure. So even though you don't have orange down here in Texas, still got ridging in place. If you notice these lines right in here, they dig down and then they go all the way like that and then like this. All right, and you see this blue coming up on your screen. That is troughing, trying to build in against this ridge, and that could save us maybe in the southeast. Now, this is probably going to bring an area of disturbed weather, but you got a little bit of a trough showing up, low pressure. Could this be that tropical system? I mean, I think it is pretty much what it is right here. This is probably going to keep clouds, showers around. So as we get to the end of September, early October, some kind of low pressure off the coast of the southeast might keep temperatures lower, but it's not. I don't think it's going to be that super dry fall-like air that you associate with a cool down in the fall. But I really think it's going to be warmer than average for sure across the middle of the country. So if you look at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlooks, takes us through the last day of September through October 4th. And my folks that tune in from the Great Lakes region, if you're not a warm weather fan, which, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you guys will certainly take the warm weather this time of the year, as it's inevitable that you guys are going to freeze up at some point. But you guys are certainly going to be dealing with well above average temperatures. I mean, right over the middle of the country, even slightly above average temperatures, chances in areas of the southeast. But as you can tell, around near normal, around the coastal regions of South Carolina, North Carolina, that's just due to the fact that you got a lot of showers and cloud cover. But definitely above average temperature-wise in the northeast. This will slow down any changing of the leaves kind of in the process of doing so. You're starting to get some of these higher elevations across the Alps, southern, central, and northern Appalachian mountains that are beginning to change above 3,000 to 6,000 feet for sure. I'm starting to see some pictures come in. But below average temperatures showing up across the west for sure. 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. That trough weakens. And it looks like it's not as extreme basically in this time period as it is in the shorter range time period. So what does this mean as far as temperatures? Well, we get into tomorrow. I mean, 80s and 90s. One thing I want to remind you guys is, I know you see this and you immediately freak out and you're probably like, oh my goodness, it's about to get into the upper 90s and hundreds. We're in late September now. So this is compared against your average temperatures for this time of the year. So your average temperatures are no longer what August and July average temperatures are, right? They're September, because we're in the month of September. So, going here in time, Monday, not too bad. You get into Tuesday, and you got a boundary setting up right here. Definitely warm in 80s, low 90s in southern Nebraska, Oklahoma. But we keep this going in time. And definitely some warm air begins to build into the last day of September, where you can hit 80 degrees, which is certainly above average in like Minneapolis. And even, I mean, it's that time of the year up into the UP and Michigan, northern Wisconsin, where, I mean, the 70s, where somebody could hit 80 degrees. But, you start to get in the 70s, and that's well above average for you folks this time of the year. I mean, some 80s in Wisconsin. I mean, we're the last day of September, almost in October. This is certainly well above average, even though in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't seem that warm. For this time of the year, I mean, that's above average, well above average. And then we get into October 1st, maybe the heat begins to let up some, and we start to get more back to fall-like temperatures, but still above average up here, even with the cool down. But, as we're starting to get And this is the blend of all models. But, you know, as you're starting to get to next Wednesday, October the 4th, this will change somewhat depending on what weather currents are out there, features. But it looks like you get some fall air that begins to kind of dig back into the region. But definitely no extremely cold air for you folks in the northern plains, the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes region. Certainly a warm week coming up for you folks, and just an extension of summer for you folks in the south central and areas of the deep south of the U.S. Now, for my folks in the eastern U.S., definitely this is tomorrow. Clouds and some rain lingering around will keep you guys quite chilly around the New York City area, especially into like the Poconos and areas like that, into the Berkshires, the mountainous regions right in here. The Catskills. I think that was the one I was thinking of. You know, it'll be very chilly in these regions right in here. Definitely a fall-like day. Warming on up in the southeast. Definitely a warm day in Florida, South Georgia, southern Alabama. And then we start to get into Tuesday. That heat with the ridge building begins to build into the Mid-South and Ohio Valley. And then, with just a lot of showers and cloud cover, could get a little bit of a cool down for our folks in the southeast. Just beautiful fall-like conditions in the northeast. But we're starting to get into Thursday. Friday starts to warm up a little bit. But, I mean, honestly, for us in the southeast, not too bad. This is getting into Friday. I mean, 80 degrees on September 30th. It's not that bad. You know, I made a tweet earlier for my folks in South Carolina. I said this has been the most smoothest transition from summer to fall that we've had in a long time. We've had a really good last couple of falls here in the southeast. Last year was very chilly, September and October, to the point where for the first time in years, the fall foliage was actually well ahead of schedule for like the southern Alps in North Carolina and Tennessee. But this year, you know, just a nice transition. Nothing dramatic one way or the other, and that looks to continue to be the case. I think this week coming up will be a little bit more warmer. It'll feel warmer because of the humidity, but, you know, I don't see any kind of big-time heat for the eastern U.S. Now, you know, getting into the 70s up here for early October, that's above average for you folks in the northeast, but it's nothing you guys can't handle for sure. Rainfall between now and the morning of October 1st. So this is basically the rest of the month. Most of this rain that you see here in the northeast around New York City, Long Island, New Jersey, there's rain falling between now and the next couple of days. But you see this rain down here in Florida. Definitely a tropical air mass is going to promote numerous showers and storms for you folks. You know, several inches of rain could fall in Florida, South Georgia, even into the low country of South Carolina, a couple inches of rain. And just kind of rain scattered about across the southeast, mid-Atlantic, Ohio Valley, deep south. So, actually, you know, it's pretty wild. I did not have to start that video over one time in the beginning. So, you know, I feel like God helped me through that. Thank y'all for the well wishes. Thank y'all for the prayers. The support system is amazing with this channel. And definitely tore my nerves up not making a video. I think that was the first time I didn't do a morning video with me. Well, if the reason's not me being on vacation or storm chasing or being sick, and since like October of last year when I got really sick. I'm not sure if y'all remember that. I got really, really sick the third week of October last year. Nothing compared to what I have now. But anyways, thank y'all for the love. Should be back to normal tomorrow, I'm hoping. But God bless all y'all. Have a great night, and I'll talk to you soon.